and basic example of inheritance, all that stuff. And this is something I have taken from the previous batch OOP lectures. So I've just written here what I want you to observe, right? So for example, I have made a static variable. I've described what a static variable is. So just trying to make it as informative as possible. Also, I asked you to read to follow beginner's book yesterday, right? That's a website that is going to be good for you guys at this level because we are just getting started with OOP, right? So that has the content in a to the point manner, right? And even in beginner's book, do not go and study what we have not covered in the class. Okay, so if you are studying, let's say after today's class, if you are going to study inheritance from there, polymorphism for there, encapsulation from there, only focus on what we have discussed in the class, right? You can read about the other things. If you understand it, well and good. If you don't understand it, don't panic, right? So because in due time everything will become clear to us. So just don't rush it, right? This is something that we will absorb over time. जो main concepts हैं, whatever the core concepts are, that I'll make sure that you are understanding as the session is moving forward, but just do not worry. So everything that is needed has been covered so far. Okay, so I mean that's going to be the strategy for the coming lectures as well. So having said that, let me just quickly not revise but just discuss the topics that we discussed yesterday, है ना? So first thing that we discussed yesterday was the static keyword, right? So if you want to make any function or any variable class level, what do I mean by saying class level? You are not dependent on creating a new object for executing these functions or for accessing these variables, right? And there's only one copy of these variables, right? These static variables, there's only one copy at the class level, and when the code for your class is compiled, then itself this memory allocation takes place for these variables, right? The other variables, so for example, if you have static int a in your class and then you have integer b and c, these are normal object variables, right? So what will happen for these are not going to occupy any integer memory when your class is compiled, because their implementation is not dependent on the presence of the class. Their implementation, or you can say their usage, is dependent on the creation of an object, because these variables that we are defining, we are actually defining it as a state property or as a property of our objects, right? So having a b variable and a c variable only makes sense once you have the object there, right? So that's the difference. Memory allocation for this thing takes place as soon as your class is coded, as soon as your class code for your class is compiled, but this thing is only going to be present at an object level. So whenever you have an object, you are going to have a variable b and c for it, right? And independent of that thing, you are always going to have an integer a for your class, right? You can access this particular variable either by either through the help of your objects, right? Object references, that also you can do. And you can, other way of doing this is, if let's say the class name is a here, so your class a is the one in which you are doing all these operations. So you can also access this a variable by doing this a dot a, where a is nothing but the class name, right? So these are certain things that you can do with the static variables. Same goes for static methods that you are going to create. You are not dependent on creation of an object for it, right? So you can directly use your class name and call that particular method. Another thing that we discussed about static methods yesterday was that inside static methods, you cannot create, or you can say you cannot call any non-static method. Why is that so? Because if you're making a call to a non-static method, that's actually nonsense, right? Because static function, it does not depend on the creation of object for getting called. But as soon as you're calling a non-static function, that you can only call with the help of an object. Inside static function, you don't know anything about object or anything, right? So that's something that's not possible. So what is not possible? You cannot have any uh, instance variable access, or you can say calling any non-static function inside of the static block or the static function, right? So that is something important that we discussed yesterday, and we discussed it at length. So If you have a doubt in it, please go through the code of yesterday's lecture. Okay, don't no need to go through the whole lecture again and try to figure out what I'm trying to explain here, right? The other thing that we discussed yesterday at great length was the this keyword, right? This keyword. So in very short, the significance of this particular keyword is it refers to the current object, right? Current object. So let's say you are inside a constructor, so it's going to refer to the object for which the constructor was called. If you're inside a function, if you're inside a non-static function, basically this is going to refer to what? It's going to refer to the object that has called the function, right? You do s1.works, s1.fun, whatever function you are creating. So for that s1, you can't use s1 inside the class declaration, right? It doesn't know what is s1, what is s2, because that you are doing in the main function. So inside class, to represent the current object, you use the this keyword. Okay, so this is what we discussed yesterday, and I think we started with inheritance, right? The logic for inheritance. I told you we have inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation, all that stuff. So yesterday we started with inheritance, and the only thing that I told you yesterday was two things. First is what is inheritance, right? If you have a class A and the class B is extending from it, that means it is inheriting from the class A, and inheriting means it has its literal meaning. So it will inherit all the variables and all the functions of the parent class. Okay, so if your parent class has some variables, has some methods, they are perfectly like they're it's perfectly fine to use those particular functions inside of your child class or through the help of your child class objects. है ना? So we saw all these things yesterday. Another thing that we saw in yesterday's class was order of constructor call. Right? So when you create object for a child class, what you observed yesterday was first the constructor of parent class is getting called, right? And I told you the reason for that as well. So we will start from there, and then we will discuss today's, start with today's agenda. So let me make it simpler. Let me just comment this particular thing out. Okay, so C, no, we are not going to have this. What we are going to have instead is, so we have a class A, we have a class B. B is extending from class A. That's the picture here. B1 is equal to new B. Okay. And what you're going to have, yeah, I think that's it. So my point was, when I was trying to explain this to you, I said that the parent class is supposed to inherit all its variables and pass it to the child class, right? It is supposed to pass all the variables to the child class. Now, what happens inside this particular constructor is you have declared this int a, which is perfectly fine, but in order to be inheriting it, it's first important that you are setting its value to whatever you had thought about, right? मतलब जब आप a का object बनाते, if you are creating object for a, this constructor would be called, right? So you are setting the variable a inside class A. There is another variable a which you are setting according to your will. So before you pass it on to the class B for usage, you again have to set this particular variable a. A is equal to 5 or whatever you want to do with this one. That is something that you will have to do here. Only after that you can pass the variable to the child class. That's why when you do inheritance, first the parent-most class, or you can say the top-most class, has its variable assigned properly, has its variable, you can say, ready for inheriting to the child class, right? So that's what is happening here. That's why the order of constructor call is from the topmost class to the bottommost class. Okay, so if I run this, I'll allow you the permission to chat now. If I run this, what is it that I'm expecting here? So basically, all I want to say is inside constructor A, constructor for A, there is a print statement constructor in A, and there is this print statement in the constructor of child class, constructor in class B. Pretty straightforward. So I'm saying that what should be the output here? You know for sure this constructor is going to get called, right? Constructor in A, constructor in B, right? Such static method can be inherited. So these things we can try. See, let's do it right away. है ना? Static void. That function is to test println hello from parent static, right? Hello from parent static. So if I call this particular function now, b1 dot test, see, it's not getting inherited, or is it? Let's see. See, right? First you create the object for this, so these are the lines for that: constructor in class A, constructor in class B. Then you are calling the test function from the parent class, and it's getting perfectly called. That's a static function, right? How many objects will get created? Krishna, good question. Object is only getting created for class B, but for class B you also have these variables, right? What is the property of an object of class B? It should be basically it should be allowed to access the variables of the parent class, to use the methods of the parent class. Object is getting created for class B only, but that object in itself has these variable A and this access to this particular function, you can say. Why? Because it is getting inherited from the parent. Can we call this test method without object? That also we can try. Let's try to do. My thought says yes, we can do it. Why? Because the way inheritance is working, what we are trying to understand so far is, now this test function is actually a function for B also, so it should work. But let's see. So b dot test, see, it's working. I mean, not showing any error. So let's try this. Even if you do not create an object for it, let's try this. I mean, it will work because it's a static function, right? See, can we print the value of A in class B? Yeah, Chirag, yes, yes, yes. It's accessible. Ab dekho na, Chirag, you are printing the value of A inside a random class. oop1 is a random class, right? It's not related to A or B. तो B में तो आप obviously print कर सकते हो. So you can, let's do it inside the constructor only. So you can just, sorry, you want to print the value of A, just print it like this, right? It's allowed. Okay, so if I do it like this, comment this line, run this particular thing, what will happen? First you will go to constructor in class A as you were doing earlier, and then what's happening here? Print the value of A, which we have set as 5, and constructor in class B, right? So 3 constructors are called. No, Krishna, where 3 constructors are called? I removed the third class, okay? Don't get confused. So that's why only 2 constructors are called, Krishna. The parent class and the actual class, child class. Function class A में है, access class B से करा है, वही तो है inheritance. That's the point, right, SK? So that's what I am trying to explain, right? Inheritance means whatever function or variables you have in the parent class, they will as it is get inherited for use in the child class, right? 3 constructors are not called. I don't understand why you are getting confused. Function is class. I told that. Sir, is the void method inside A? Yeah. See, Prince, this method void test is inside class A. The constructor cannot be inherited. Then how A's constructor is getting there? I didn't say that constructor is getting inherited. What I am saying is, Deepak, from class B, when I am creating the object for class B, constructor for the parent class is getting called first, right? Because it has to set its variable. इसके पहले कि वो पास करे अपनी child class को वो variables, it is setting those values. That's why constructor is inside class A only, and that constructor is getting called the constructor in class A. Okay, it's not inheritance or anything with respect to constructor, I'm saying. Okay, function to function class. Okay, repeating questions, sir. Homework bhi diya kariye. See, dream for this particular OOP discussion, I sent a lot of text yesterday. It had a lot of links, so all of that was for your reference, for your homework only, right? I said read these topics before coming to the class. That's what That's the kind of homework that you will be getting for 1-2 classes when we are discussing OOP. Okay. If you modify the value of A in class B, the yes, you can do that. जो वेरिएबल A है क्लास A का, वो perfectly you can use it as if it's a variable of class B only, because B has inherited from class A, right? How one object getting created and two statements are getting printed. Okay, this is your doubt, right, Krishna? That's what I'm trying to say. Object is only getting created for class B, but because this is a special case of inheritance, this is the case of inheritance, what we are going to have is, first we are going to go to the constructor of A, that's going to set the variables so that those variables can be transferred for use by the object of class B. Object is only getting created for class B. Only one object is getting created, right? So that's how it is working. Okay. What if we don't initialize variable A in constructor? Then what will be the order of constructor call? Mohammed, that then also, if you remember yesterday's example, in that case we did not have any variables, right? I just had a simple thing like this. I have it here also, just to explain it. Okay, sorry, where is it? Order of constructor call. So if you remember, I created class, this one, right? I created class A, class B, class C. So here, if you even if you remove these variables A, B, whatever, then also the order of constructor call is going to be like that only. Okay? Why use extends? This is, if we want to use inheritance, we will have to use the keyword extends, right? There is no why in that. This is how you do it, perform inheritance. Static void main, we will come to that in due time. Today we don't need to discuss it. System.b.a is it possible? Yes, yes, Anand, it is possible. Yeah, Rahul, test is a function, it's not a constructor. If you want to implement it, you will have to call it, right? That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys, right? So when you create the object for the child class, the constructor for parent class is also called. That's how it works. Okay, there is nothing that we are doing explicitly. मैं अलग से कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूं, होता ही ऐसा है. That is how it is. And why is it like that? वो भी मैंने explain किया. Because you have certain variables in class A, it has to pass those variables to class B. Before it can pass those variables to class B, it sets those particular variables, right? Constructor का sense क्या है? To set the variables that are going to be used for objects, right? So constructor of class A is just trying to do that. That's why the parent most or the topmost constructor is called first. It happens automatically. We are not doing anything to make that happen, right? A variable same name can't be declared more than once. In the lecture of this, we declared it as an object variable and also declared, okay, this is a little, I'll come to it if time permits. Just I'll have to take this privilege away from you again because you're overloading the chat. Isn't it a static method? So अगर A में नहीं B होगा तो भी कॉल कर सकते हैं ना मेथड को. स्टैटिक है इसका मतलब थोड़ा ना कि even for a static method declaration should be there na. If it is there in the class A, then we can call it, right? Obviously if it is there in class B, तब तो call कर ही सकते हैं, right? Now I will have to all code remove and write from beginning. Let me do that. That's a fair point. Let me do that. So I'm removing this, right? I'm removing everything. Some people want it in the chat, so what I'll do is Control C, send it to you guys. Okay, and now I'm going to remove everything. So delete and delete. Let's start fresh. ठीक है ना? So let's start like this. Class A. Okay, nothing here. Class B extend. A. Okay, so this what we are trying to do is B is inheriting class A. Okay, B is inheriting from class A. Since class A is empty at this point, there is nothing to inherit from class A as such, right? So just for that purpose, let me give a variable int A like this. So first point that I made yesterday was, let me declare a main function. If you create an object for class B, right, what's going to happen is you are going to get access to all the variables that even the parent class has. So you can see B class has nothing of its own. It's an empty class. But still, because there is this A variable in parent class, B has access or permission to use that particular variable. What is the proof? See, B does not have any variable inside it, but if I want to access this particular variable with the help of this child class object, I can do that. So what can I do? B1.a is equal to 5, and then I can print this also. Okay, so this is the first point I am trying to make. Okay, what is the first point? I am accessing the variable that was actually present in the parent class. So don't see it as a parent class. Okay, don't see it as the variable of parent class. When you do inheritance, when you perform inheritance, all these variables, all these methods get in a way get transferred to the child. Okay, so that you can do use that with the help of object of child without actually having to write it again. That's my first point. Okay, that's what I explained yesterday also. Now, what is it that I want to do? I want to show you how the object creation works in case of inheritance. Okay, before I move forward, just tell me if this discussion is clear. I will allow you. Let me try poll today. Okay, let me see how it works. I spent 2 minutes here. If it's done, it's okay. Yes, no. Save. How do I launch it? Launch. Okay, so let's see how it works. Okay, it works. And a lot of you are not getting it. So let's get to it. Okay. Okay, cool. I'll explain it. Don't worry. I'll have to. 30% is a big number. Okay. So if this is not clear, I don't really know any easier way to explain this. I mean, what is there to not get clear in it? There's one class having one variable in it. A child class is trying to extend the parent class, and only point that I have made so far is you can access this particular variable as if ये B का खुद का variable हो. It's as good as saying यहाँ पे int a. Okay, because यहाँ पे एक int a है, this will be passed directly to class B because it is extending from class A. ठीक है? Why? Because that's how inheritance works. There is no y in it, right? That is inheritance. Okay. Is the what getting clear to you? क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे? Only that should be your focus. How it is happening? Because that's inheritance. Because we are using this extends keyword, है ना? So that's my point here, right? So I don't know where is the poll. Can you change your answer if you feel different, or is it fixed? I think it's fixed only. So anyways, so if I end this, oh, it's a hectic task. It's a chatty yaar, है ना? Anyways, so I'll give you the permission to ask. I'll not enable the chat. If someone has a question, please raise your hand and ask it, because I'm really not able to understand what's there that you're not able to understand, है ना? Yeah, SK, please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Are you audible me?
Yeah. You're audible.
सर जैसे हम अगर विदाउट एक्सटेंड यूज करके किसी एक बार चेक करके देखें तो क्या आंसर आएगा?
There is no variable A inside B. कैसे आप access? So
Yes,
it's
sir.
trying to say कौन है A? Okay. How do you think that you can
A,
access
B,
A with the help of object of class B? So that's what it's trying to ask you, है ना? But because you have inherited it
सर
from the parent class,
इनहेरिटेंस का मतलब
go
यस
ahead.
सर सर इनहेरिटेंस का मतलब यही तो है कि एक क्लास से दूसरी क्लास को अटैच करने के लिए.
हम्म एक क्लास के पास कुछ है, वो पास ऑन कर देगा दूसरे क्लास को, ठीक है? आपको दूसरी क्लास में लिखना नहीं पड़ेगा दोबारा. You don't have to write it again, right? That's the
सर
meaning of
हाँ
inheritance.
दूसरी दूसरी क्लास के वेरिएबल्स को एक्सेस कर सकते हैं.
पेरेंट क्लास के वेरिएबल को एक्सेस कर, ठीक है?
यस सर.
तो अभी अभी अगर मैं फिर से, if I go back to this, now is it clear what is happening in this scenario?
यस सर.
तो
यस सर.
यही डाउट था बस
ओके, थैंक यू सर.
बस यही था.
यस सर.
I'll take one more
सर
doubt.
एक
Thank
डाउट
you.
होता है कि वो आपने पहले क्लियर कर दिया कि मैंने ऑल चैट्स मतलब ऑल कोड्स को रिमूव करके दोबारा एक बार.
हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, थैंक यू. दैट इज अ गुड सजेशन. नाउ वी आर स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम फ्रेश, है ना? कूल, थैंक यू. I'll just take one more doubt. Kalpana, yeah, Kalpana, please go ahead. Hmm. You are not audible, Kalpana. I'll move to Chirag now. Yeah, please go ahead. Why I'm taking your doubts is because if one of you is having this, there's a high probability all of you are having it, right? That's why. Yeah, Chirag, go ahead.
Hello,
Hmm.
am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah, Chirag, go ahead.
Hello,
Yeah, you are audible. Okay. Okay, this is the last person that I can go to. Yeah, Jyoti, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Yesterday you told me now we declared a value in parent class, but here you declared the a value in main function. Is it okay? We declare anywhere.
See, tell me if you have a problem with this. Int b. Okay, if I did something like this, would you be clear with it? This we have been doing from the, you can say, past two lectures, right? So are you comfortable with this thought? Because class B has a variable called B, you can access it. Are you comfortable with
Yeah.
है ना? Right? So this is exact mental picture that I'm asking you to draw, right? There is a variable in class A. Because B is inheriting from class A, it's kind of catching all the variables, and it can also use the variables that class A has passed, right? So
Yeah.
what I mean by saying that is, if there is a variable in class A and B is extending from class A, it is perfectly fine that you create an object for B and access those variables with the help of this particular object. So if there is no problem, I mean, if you don't have any doubt with this particular thought, you should not have any doubt with this also, right? Like this. So it's the exact same thing. It's just that because we have inherited, we do not have to repeat ourselves. This principle that I told you yesterday, right? We can reuse the code. That is, if there is a variable inside it, we can directly access it with the help of child class object. If there is a function inside it, that also we can directly access, right? Because it is all passed on to be used by the child class from parent to the child class. Are you comfortable
Yeah.
with that now?
Yeah. Okay, sir. Yeah. Now I'm clear.
I'm sure.
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Anything
Yeah.
more?
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
No, not at all. Yeah.
ठीक है. Okay, I'll take a pause now. Pause as in pause from asking you questions. Okay, so this is one thing. Okay, whatever data types, whatever items that you are having in the parent class, they will as it is be passed for use for the child class. Okay, if your father has a property, he will as it is pass the property to you. Okay, you can also live there just the way you were living there when your father was there. So father is like the object of parent class. I mean, he is the father himself, so he can live in his house that you are comfortable with. But inheritance mein, all I am saying is once you are saying that you are extending from your father, you are becoming eligible to live in his house. That's all I am saying. So if I am doing something like this, accessing the variable of parent class from the object of child class, that is inheritance. Okay, there is no why in it. It's just you have to focus on what is happening here. And if that is clear, we are good to go. There is no need to unnecessarily overthink about it. Right? So are you guys clear now? I am enabling chat. है ना? This is one thing. This is the first thing that I wanted to tell you, and do not go here and there. This is the only question I am asking. Is this discussion clear? ठीक है? Cool. You can stop it now. है ना? If B wants to inherit only some selected properties of A, that's not possible. Inheritance works in a way that either you take everything or don't inherit at all, right? So, but Pranshu, it's like if you do not want a particular variable from your parent class, don't use it, right? आपको मिल गया, use मत करो if you don't want to use it, right? So that's I think that answers your question. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. Inherit होगा वो. Okay. Now Vibhuti is asking one interesting question. This is A. Okay. This is A is equal to 25. This is A is equal to 5. Okay. Now I am saying, I am not setting anything. I created an object for B, and what I am doing here is I am just printing the A variable for this particular object. Because you also have a variable A in the B class itself, it's going to take preference over the A variable that you had in your parent class. What does it mean? Because see, you had a variable A in your parent class. If you are declaring it again, what it means is you don't want anything to do with the A of parent class, right? Because when you search for A variable, when you write b1.a, it goes and search for the A variable where? First, it goes and search in the B class itself. Okay, if you have an A there, this is the A that's going to get used, and you will be having 25 printed here. अगर यहाँ पे A नहीं होता, if you did not have A here, only then it would have gone to the parent class कि भाई मेरे को A access करने को बोला गया है. I have been asked to access A. It's not there in the B class. Is it there in the parent class? That's how the compiler works. First, it will go in the class जिसके object की बात चल रही है. Then it will go to the parent class to see if it's present there. But because it has found the A variable here only, it's going to print 25 here. So that's to answer Vibhuti's question, right? अगर दोनों क्लास में A variable होगा तो क्या होगा? ये होगा, right? So this is the just a doubt that we took. Okay, so now I'm going to remove everything again. Just the main function empty. Okay, this thing and this thing. Class A is empty again. Class B is empty again. And let's do what we want to do here. Okay, so I'm just creating a constructor here. Don't ask me why I'm putting public. What is public? We will cover everything. Okay, if I'm not telling you something, that is all intentional. Either I will cover it in the later classes, or you are supposed to understand it yourself. Okay, so don't ask questions that are not pertaining to the topic, because we're anyways moving. This is the slowest pace that I have ever taught at. है ना? So let's try to have at least some system in place. Anyways, so this is one constructor. Okay, all I want to print here is just to see if we entered this constructor or not. I am writing a print statement. Okay, inside A. Similarly, let me just create a constructor for class B also, just renaming it to B, and inside B. So the second thing that I wanted to share with you was, if you do something like this, B1 is equal to new B. Now what you guys are comfortable in is, जो आपको पक्का पता है, that the thought that you are comfortable with, it is that constructor for this particular class will be called. So you are very comfortable in thinking that inside B will get printed, and you are not wrong there. This is something additional that I am telling you. This is not something that you were supposed to know from before. What I'm telling you is, before you actually implement the contents inside the constructor of child class, before you actually come here and write inside B and everything, implicitly मतलब अपने आप Java क्या करता है, आप यहाँ पे आओगे, Java will send you to the parent constructor. वो बोलेगा पहले parent constructor का implementation करो, only then you will be allowed to come here. What will Java do? If you are creating an object for B class, it will first send you to the parent constructor. So it's not that we are creating an object for the parent class. It is just sending you there so that all the variables that you want to inherit from A are getting ready properly. Because that's the job of constructor, na? We are not doing anything here. There is no variable to prepare. But I am just trying to show you the concept that when you create an object for child class, how is the constructor call, in which order is the constructor call done? First it goes to the parent class, then it comes to the child class, then it goes to the child of child, then it keeps going down and down from the topmost class. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, there is no why in it, right? I mean, there is a why in it. I've been trying to explain it for the past very long time, but this is how it works. And what's more important at this point is, are you able to understand this observation? Is it getting clear to you why it might be happening? What does this extend thing mean? Is it getting clear to you now? I'll just enable chat again. Is this discussion clear now? So if I hit this run thing, would you be comfortable in thinking that inside A will be printed, then inside B will be printed, right? So if I run this, chalo, at least all of you are clear. First we had inside A, because आप पहले B में ही गए होगे, आप इधर ही गए होगे, right? Because Java doesn't know at this point कि B का कोई parent भी है, right? But something happens inside this automatically, that it goes to the parent and goes to the constructor of that, है ना? What if number of parameters does not match in the parent class? So Ankit, I'm going to come to that. Okay, I'm going to come to that in due course of time. We are going to get an error. Okay, so what Ankit is saying is, there is one thing that I want to tell you before I take Ankit's question. Okay, do you remember that when we were starting with the concept of OOP, I did not make a constructor first. आपको याद है पहली क्लास जो हमने बनाई थी वो कुछ ऐसी थी. I'm just removing it. Okay, so you had a class, you had some integer variables, some string name, whatever, right? Let's call it ID to refresh your memory. This is something that we did. उसके बाद हमने क्या किया था? We said AA is equal to new A, right? उसका क्या किया था? A dot ID is equal to 5, A dot name is equal to Bhavya, right? Then we were printing it, playing around with it. That is what we did. My point is, we did not make a constructor for it. Do you remember this thing? I mean, you remember this thing only. Now my point is, we did not make a constructor when we were first studying, when we started studying OOP, right? Then also, if you realize, if I don't do these things and I simply do a print for a.id and a.name, you remember Java was giving it default values by itself, right? 0 and null. So if I run this thing, Java was doing this. You remember this, है ना? I've disabled chat deliberately, so don't answer. This is what Java was doing. Okay, so my the point that I want to make here is, when we were not making a constructor, Java makes one constructor by default. Okay, Java makes one constructor by default. It's a non-parameterized constructor, and all it does is it gives these default values. Integer है तो 0 दे देगा, कोई object कोई class type का variable है तो उसको null दे देगा, reference variable null. Okay, reference null means it's not pointing to any object, right? If it's a boolean variable, it will give false there. If it's a double, it will give 0.0, something like that. Where is this happening? It's happening inside the default constructor जो Java ने खुद ने दे दिया. I have not made any constructor here, but Java is still doing this. So behind the scenes, Java itself has made one constructor for this particular class for doing this thing. Okay, so this is what I wanted to tell you. Now this default constructor that Java prepares for you is actually a non-parameterized one. मतलब आपको object ऐसे बनाना पड़ेगा if you have not declared a constructor. If I do something like this, 5 comma Bhavya here, you see we are getting an error. What is the error? Expected 0 arguments but found 2. मतलब देखो भाई, आपने खुद ने तो कोई कंस्ट्रक्टर बनाया नहीं हुआ है. You have not made any constructor inside class A, and what you are expecting me to do is you are passing values and I am magically supposed to assign them. That's not going to happen. So Java can, by default, Java can only take care of one scenario. That is what? If you are passing no arguments inside, if you are not initializing any value, Java can only do one thing, that whatever variables are there, it can give it a default value, right? So that's the first thing that I wanted to discuss today. So default constructor that Java gives, constructor that Java gives is a no argument constructor. What does it do? It gives 0 to integer, it gives false to boolean. For if there is a string or if there is an array, it will just give a null there. Null in a reference variable means it's not pointing anywhere, right? If it's a double, so you can keep playing like this. So these default values assignment is happening inside the constructor that Java has made for you. Okay, so that's the point I wanted to tell. Now when you make these constructors, right, when you make this constructor inside it, so let's say this is what you are doing, right? In a constructor you do this this dot id, right? You do these things, right? Now see, do you see an error here? Okay, so it's saying that you only have one constructor here. You have one constructor here जिसमें आपने क्या, you are accepting integer and string, and here you are not passing any integer or any string. So do you see the error? As soon as we make a constructor of our own, that default constructor that Java was taking care of is gone now. Okay, that constructor is gone. Now if you want to make an object and not pass anything in it, you will have to make a no argument constructor yourself. Okay, is this thing clear to you? I think it will not be clear to you, but still ask me what doubt you have. Okay, clear? Yeah, आप no की जगह आप ना doubt लिखो, so that I can make a sense out of it, or maybe just raise your hand. As you what if we make default constructor not initialize any value, then what will happen is that again show 0. हाँ, 0 null show करेगा चिराग, 0 null whatever depending on data type, right? Yeah, Neil, please raise your hand. I'll take your question. Clear. Can we do like this? A object is equal to new B. Neil, this I'll take up later. Okay, we can do that. That's under polymorphism. I'll discuss it either today or tomorrow. Okay, can you do it? Yes, you can do it. So why error? We are getting an error SK because now it's saying A के अंदर कोई भी constructor नहीं है which is accepting no parameters. A only has one constructor that is accepting two parameters and you are supposed to send two parameters. अगर आप ऐसा कर दोगे 5 comma some string, now it's not throwing any error, right? Now if you run it, it will give you this 5 comma bf whatever, right? So this you can run, but if you want to make an object without passing any particular parameter, you will have to make a constructor that handles that case. मतलब आपको एक constructor बनाना पड़ेगा ऐसा, ठीक है? No, it doesn't matter whether you are not doing anything here, but at least it will tell Java that okay, this is also allowed, this is also a case. So my point is, जब तक आप कुछ भी नहीं कर रहे हो, Java एक default constructor बना देगा आपके लिए. But as soon as you have started making at least one constructor, even one constructor, so Java बोलेगा भाई अब सारे बनाओ. If you want to use a constructor, construct it. I mean, make it, and then only you will be able to use it. Any number of classes you can make, right? That's not an issue. Static variable is also getting inherited, right? We saw it. Let me disable chat now. It's overflowing again. Can we call other constructor method order? Can we say call order for constructor and method is different? Method is only called when you call it. Constructor is getting called itself during object creation. If I make a constructor in A, no parameters, number of parameters does not match. Yeah, Ankit, I'm going to come to that. That's why I started this discussion, right? A and BCDE में A की value inherit कर सकते हैं एक साथ. Yeah. That is hierarchical inheritance, right? We talked about it yesterday. Can we create an empty constructor? Yeah, just did. You can. Static method load its properties when declared inside constructor. Static method को declare क्यों करना है constructor के inside? I'm not getting this. Anyways, so coming back to the main point. So now there is one thing I wanted to explain to you, right? Just deleting everything. Okay, deleting everything from here, right? So class A, class B extends from A, right? And what I want to do here is, see what I want to do here. Let's make a constructor for A, right? And let me accept an integer here, ठीक है ना? And then let's make a constructor for B. Do you see this error? By default, when Java makes a call to the parent constructor, it is the constructor in the parent class with no argument in it. ठीक है? When it's making a call to parent constructor, देखो यहाँ पे मैंने एक parameter डाल दिया है, right? I have put a parameter here. So you no longer have this constructor that you had, right? Public A. ये वाला constructor नहीं है आपके पास, right? You don't have this. That's why we are getting an error. What does it read? There is no default constructor available in the parent class. Do you understand what is happening now? Let me enable the chat again. If you don't understand, raise your hand so that I can ask you what your doubt is. Okay. So at least there is a set of students who are getting this, and there is one small set who is not getting it. So yeah, it's perfectly fine. I was under the impression that no one is getting it. Okay, let me show you full code. Nothing is happening inside main as of now, and just let me also remove this. So this is the error. Okay, I'm not going to repeat the whole thing, Pradeep, if you don't tell me what the exact doubt is. Okay, you can raise your hand, you can share your concern. Okay. You guys are what? Okay, you raise your hand. Yeah, Jyoti, go ahead. Okay, Anmol, go ahead, please. I don't understand what's happening. Okay, I have no option but to. If someone else raised hand. Yeah, Bharat.
Hello, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Huh.
Sir, it's showing error because we are not declared default constructor in class A, parents class, right, sir?
Hmm.
Sir, if we declare default constructor in parent class,
Hmm.
then in child class, if we declare the parameterized constructor means it shows error or correctly, sir?
See, at this point, let me first understand one thing from you. Are you clear with this thing that when you make a child class object, what it's going to do from here is it's going to make a call to the parent constructor which is default, non-parameterized.
Okay, sir.
Now that you don't have it declared, यहाँ पे you don't have any constructor that is default one, right? Without parameter.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So that is the first problem it is giving you, that you are not having a default constructor in your parent.
parent.
Okay. So now what is your doubt again?
Sir, I am having doubt that uh, in the reverse case, what happens, sir? Means if you declared a default constructor in parent class,
Which class? In
parent class. If
you have a
declare-
default constructor, okay?
Yes, sir.
And just for the record, I'm showing you this error is gone.
Yes, sir. I'm removing the parameter construction constructor in parent class, sir. Then in child class, I am going to declare a parameters constructor in child class. What
No
happened
issue.
now, sir?
See, no issues.
What? No issues.
ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
Perfectly clear, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good, very good. Okay, so now I can take input from others also because after this I think it would get a little better for you guys. So is it clear to others also? I mean, I'm asking from people to whom it was unclear before. Those who were clear before are definitely going to be clear now as well. है ना? So let me take one more question. Okay, let's take from Vamsi. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Huh.
What if we have methods in the parent class? Can we access in the child class instead of constructor?
ये तो पक्का है. Methods में तो there is no question only. Methods तो are going to get transferred by default. उसमें तो there is no issue. We saw it in this class, right?
Okay, there is no issue with the parameterized or non-parameterized in methods.
See, this is a constructor, not a method.
Okay,
Right.
what if we have methods in the parent class?
Huh? So what? If you have methods in the
if you-
parent class, you can access it by the object of child class. Perfectly fine, no issues.
Okay.
Method is not touched when you are creating an object, right? It's something that will be called when you call it. As simple as that. Right?
Okay.
But by default, what happens is when you create an object for child class, it goes to the parent class to look for a default constructor, that is a non-parameterized constructor. If it doesn't find it there, it is throwing an error, right? If I comment this thing, okay, if I comment this thing, I will also have to uncomment this. Okay, see now what does it mean? You have created a constructor with parameter. What does it mean? This person is going to
parent class.
make a call to parents constructor.
Yes.
ठीक है?
Yes.
This is going to do it, right? This is also going to make a call to the default constructor from parent class. Okay.
Okay.
Automatically these things are happening. I am not doing it. We are not doing it. We are just creating object. That's when it will happen. But the problem here is because they are going and looking for a default constructor and they are not finding one here.
Okay.
That is the issue. So if I uncomment this, it is going. See, coming and going, right? Because in this case they are able to find it. In this case they are not able to find it. right?
Okay, sir.
Perfectly clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
है ना? Others, is it clear? Poll बना लेते हैं यार. Relaunching the poll will clear. यही तो चाहते हैं अपन. Yes. Okay. The poll is active now. चलो, this time we have a good ratio. अरे यार 20 के ऊपर मत जाने दो भाई. Anyways, no issues. What is the doubt? That's what I'm trying to understand. This is so basic that I'm not able to understand. It's like, कैसे explain करूं मैं इसको? मुझे ये नहीं समझ में आ रहा कि doubt क्या है. That's something that I'm not able to figure out now. I mean, when I'm teaching a complex topic, there I understand कि यहाँ पे ये doubt आएगा. At this point, I'm clueless what the doubt is. Okay, and see, we have spent 1 hour and we have not studied anything new. So that's why I asked you to read before you come to the class, and which is something that you clearly haven't done. Okay, so 3-hour lecture is not going to cut it then. We need a 24-hour lecture, right? So I think from this point on, I will have to move on. It doesn't make sense, but I will have to move on, right? I mean, after having discussed it so many times, I will just take one more time. Harish, I'm going to unmute you. एक तो be active, right? When I'm unmuting you, like be there to answer. Bharat? Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. You are
Sir,
a
cleared,
person.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, forgot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Avnish. Yeah, please go ahead. Hello. Okay, Suraj. This is another problem.
गोळ्या तरी खायच जा मग.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah. Suraj, or who is it?
Yeah, this is
परत
Suraj.
10 तारीख नंतर पैसे 1000 रुपये पाठवतो.
Yeah, go ahead.
डॉक्टर कडे जाऊन ये.
Sir, when you teaching us, can you create just a design or a drawing to, you know,
कामावर
give
आहे मी.
example? Because
काल परवा दिवशी
in
गेलो
both
होतो.
construction we
so-
are getting confused.
काल गेलतो कामावर तर
That's
आज
fine. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, right? I do it when there is something to draw. These are just one-line codes that one-line concepts, right? Still, I will try to incorporate this feedback. But since you have unmuted, what is the doubt that you are having at this point, or which concept is it that you did not understand entirely? I mean, I think he is back to being on mute. Anyone can answer this question. Niveta, I have asked you to unmute. Yeah.
Hi, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, can you do what I am saying? In class A, please create another constructor with single parameter. Sorry. Yeah, single parameter.
So let's change the data type. Otherwise, it will throw error, right?
No. Same.
That is an error. Why do you need it?
Okay, sir. I thought in case of creating a object with B and calling a single parameter, single passing argument.
It will not be.
So
It will never be called. It will never be called from the child class. Only this
So
constructor
it
is
will
going to get called.
So in from parent class, only the default constructor will be called. Any other class, any other.
Yes. Unless you do something otherwise, which we can do, I will show you. Unless you do something on your own, by default, what Java does is it's only going to come here and search for the default constructor. Okay.
Okay.
Right. And
Okay.
yeah, that is it. Okay. That's my point. If I uncomment this, it's going to work. If I comment this whole thing, then also there is no error. So I'm just going to say this statement. Okay. Why is there no error now? Because I told you, when you are not doing anything, Java creates one default constructor for you, right? When you are not creating anything, Java creates one default constructor for you. So now we are not having any error because it's going to that particular default constructor जो Java ने बना दिया होगा. But as soon as I uncomment this portion, we are getting our error again because now that you have created one constructor with one parameter, what does it expect? What does Java expect from you? Java wants you to explicitly declare the default constructor as well. Okay. So in summary, all I want to say is when you make an object for the child class, first the order of constructor call is from top to bottom. Okay. So if there are 3 classes involved and the picture is something like this, there is class A and B is inheriting from class A, C is inheriting from class B. Okay, what's going to happen now is when you make an object for class C, first the constructor for this will be called, then the constructor for I think I opened this by mistake. Then the constructor for this will be called and then the constructor for this will be called. This is the order of constructor calling that will happen. Okay. So how can I close it? Skip. Oh, bhai. Okay. Right. This is what's going to happen. That's the first thing. And the other thing is this when I'm saying that constructor for this will be called, this will be called, this will be called, the constructor which will be called from parent class is the default constructor. Okay, so default constructor from parent class is called when you create an object for child class. This is the only thing that I have been trying to explain from the past 1 hour. This is the only thing. Don't go here, don't go there. This is the only thing. Don't ask me what a package is, don't ask me what public means. Okay, this is what I want you to understand. There is no why, there is a why for it. I tried to explain it to you, but if you are not getting the why, there is no need to, overthink about it. It's fine, right? But this is what's happening, right? And this is how it happens. So we don't need to think about why it is happening. Kyun kiya Java walon ne aisa? That's not our headache. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell you. That's the only thing that we have covered. And now let's talk about the first thing that I wanted to cover in today's class, that is constructor chaining. Okay, this is the first fresh thing that we are going to discuss today. Okay, so my question from you is it possible to call one constructor from another, or you can say to call another constructor from one constructor, whatever way you want to frame it. Point is, एक constructor है, उसके अंदर आप दूसरे constructor को call कर सकते हो क्या? That's the question. So first we are going to forget about inheritance, then we are going to have this discussion, and then we are going to bring inheritance into the consideration as well. Okay, so what I want you to do is this thing, let me just paste for you, see if it's going to be helpful or not. Okay, 6 September, right? Okay, so this we have here, delete this, not needed anymore. Okay, so empty class, nothing written here. So I'm creating a class student, sorry, and we're going to talk about constructors, right? So my question is, can we call another constructor from one constructor? So let me redraw the scenario that we had yesterday. Student had ID, name, one count variable which was static, right? And then we had constructors for the student class. So I'm just going to repeat that whole thing again. Okay, int id, string name, and then static int count, right? And then what we were doing inside each constructor was we were incrementing this count variable, right? We were incrementing this count variable, and let me just initialize it to 0, although it will be automatically done, but still let's do it. Now I will be making constructors, right? Uske andar I will do count plus plus, just as we had yesterday. So just to tell you, it's not necessary that you declare your constructors as public. I am doing it because it's the standard way to go about it, and we will not be able to cover it today. I thought we would be, but tomorrow we will discuss what public and all these variables mean. Okay, so let's start making our constructor. This is the default constructor. Okay, this is the parameterized constructor which is going to accept one parameter id, and this is the public a int id string name. This dot id is equal to id this dot name, right? Count plus plus, you will have to do count plus plus, maybe id is equal to, you can do id also, you can do this dot id also, because here you don't have any scope for confusion, right? कोई confusion की वो नहीं है. Oh sorry, student, right? ठीक है, count plus plus id, let me do standard procedure only. This dot id is equal to 0, this dot name is equal to default name. ठीक है, so this is how we have the constructors. This we had yesterday also. So id we want to assign this time. This dot id is equal to id, and name we can just take from default only, because उसने अपन को id भेजी ना. So our job is only to assign the id properly. Also count plus plus, ठीक है, also count plus plus here as well, and this. Okay, so my question from you guys was can we call one constructor from another constructor? In a way, let me, yeah. So what I want to do now is, let's say we are here. Okay, I have created an object like this, that student s1 is equal to new student, and I have passed the integer 3 to be taken as the id of student. Okay, so what I want to do here is, what I want to do here is, I want to do the count plus plus because an object just got created, right? And here I want to assign the id, right? These are the two things I want to do. This thing, assignment of the name, this I am just copying from this particular constructor, right? Tell me by some means if I can do it, that I go inside this constructor, मैंने ऐसे ऑब्जेक्ट बनाया, right? I go inside this constructor, मैं count plus plus कर दूं, id 0 कर दूं, name default name कर दूं. So do you agree that if I do this for any object, what I have ensured is that it at least has a default id and a default name, right? And then because I have come to this constructor, I can just assign the id. Okay, so what I am asking you to do is, I am repeating count plus plus. I am doing this implementation which is unnecessary, right? Which is already done here, and I have to do it here because only id has been passed and I want the name to take the value of default name. So these are the two extra things that we are having to do here. Okay, do you understand what I am trying to say? Let me enable chat again. Do you understand this? What I am trying to say is, inside this particular constructor, this will be called, because आपने id pass करी, right? एक integer pass किया है. So what we are doing is count plus plus we are doing, which is again, sorry, count plus plus we are doing, which is again a repetition from here. Name we are assigning again, which is also something that we are not supposed to do, right? This name we are assigning, and what we are doing here, we're just assigning the default name. So we are not picking anything that the user sent us. This is just a standard name, default name that we are giving. Main thing is this: this is what we want to do. Okay, so tell me, if by some means, if I call the default constructor by some means, कैसे करेंगे I don't know. If we call the default constructor, will we not get rid of this and this line? Tell me. If I call the default constructor here by some means, can we get rid of this and this line? Because count plus plus हो गया and name भी default assign हो गया है. Now you only need to assign the ID properly, because ID, default ID has been assigned, but the person has sent you the ID from outside, right? So he wants to see that particular ID in this object. So only this line you will have to do. Do you agree with this? है ना? So Nishan, do you have a doubt? You can raise hand if you have. Okay, so if it's, oh, very good, thank you. So if this is clear, let me tell you. Yeah, Chandu, please raise your hand, and I'm disabling chat now. How these concepts can be used practically? Please give assignments for better understanding. Assignments you want for OOP? This is practical implementation, isn't it? At a very microscopic level we are doing it, at a very small level we are doing it, right? It's not going to give you the sense of the actual project, but are you not getting what we are doing here? And the point is, when we will study linked list nodes, Srishti, so we are going to implement all these concepts, at least your class, object, constructor, all that stuff, right? The basic stuff that we studied, right? So as such, I don't have any assignments for OOP. But when you move on, you will have projects, project building and everything that will deploy the use of OOP. है ना? I will give a break, Ahmed, just after this. Okay, please wait for 5 minutes. Chandu had it out. I don't know why he is not raising hand. Yeah. Anyways, I'll just stop the chat now. Yeah, Harish, I'll take your doubt. Go ahead, please. Okay, this is something I can't do again and again. If you raise hand, please raise hand if your microscope बोल रहा हूँ मैं. Microphone is working. Okay. Yeah, Harish, go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm audible.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible.
Sir, your voice can't hear me.
I can hear you. Okay, I can't take question from Harish. Ankit. And please be quick, guys. This is wasting a lot of time. And this is the last doubt I can take. And I'm not taking it because... Anyways. So my point is, forget everything. My point is, if I somehow call the default constructor inside this parameterized constructor, will I not get rid of these lines? मेरे को count plus plus नहीं करना पड़ेगा फिर से because already हो गया. मेरे को ये default name assign नहीं करना पड़ेगा फिर से because already done. The only thing that I will have to take care of is this ID variable, because user has, not user, we are passing it from outside. So what we want here is, we want that to get assigned properly. Is this clear to you guys? ये clear है? Right? So, okay. So what we will do is, now question is, how can you call the default constructor? The answer for that is like this. Okay. This is the same this keyword from yesterday, right? What you are doing here is, what it means is, when you are inside a constructor, this is a permission given to you or a privilege given to you by Java. When you are inside a constructor and you use this followed by round parenthesis, it means that you are calling the fellow constructor, right? You are calling the constructor, and because we are not passing any parameter inside it, it's going to call the default constructor. Okay? So this line you don't need anymore, this line you don't need anymore, and let me do a quick demo for you guys, right? So what I will do now is, I will print count So student dot count, I will print s1 dot id, I will print s1 dot name. Okay, so what are we expecting now? I have made a call to this particular constructor, so count will get incremented, 1 हो जाएगा, id will be 0, name will be default name. Then you will come here, id will get assigned again to the proper value. So id will get, the value will get overwritten to 3, and that is exactly what we want. So name stores the default name, count stores the count 1, and id is now storing the value 3. Let's see if that is happening or not. Count, id is 3, name is default name. बिना जिसके नहीं करेगा ना अनमोल, बिकॉज सी आइदर आप यहां पे ऐसा ऑब्जेक्ट बनाओ और you when you are making a call to this constructor will be called, right, this particular constructor. अगर इससे आपको दूसरे कंस्ट्रक्टर में जाना है, so you will have to use the this keyword, right? Yesterday you said constructor can only be called during object creation. Ankit, that's what's happening, right? ये कब कॉल हो रहा है? ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएशन के टाइम पे तो कॉल हो रहा है. I said that yesterday, I'm saying it again. Yeah, Aryan, so see what's happening now is आप यहाँ पे आए, आपको you are worried that what will happen to the count variable. You are going to call the default constructor na, so count is getting incremented there also. So basically for an object that is getting created like this, where you are passing the integer to store in the id, there also, because you are calling this particular constructor, count is getting incremented, right? id is getting assigned, name is getting assigned. The only new job that you are supposed to do here is assign the id properly. Okay, is this clear? No, I have taken the permission away from you. Is this clear to you guys? And if you say no, please mention the reason also, right? Because that unmute option is clearly not working with you guys. Chalo, very good, very happy. Okay, I'm taking this away from you once again. Like this we can call constructor, and yeah, no, not anytime, Ankit. कंस्ट्रक्टर को आप अपने मन से कॉल नहीं कर रहे हो, कंस्ट्रक्टर कॉल ही तब हो रहा है ना जब आपने ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएट किया. दिस थिंग यू आर नॉट कॉलिंग इट योरसेल्फ, नॉट सेइंग दैट कॉल द स्टूडेंट विद पैरामीटर आईडी. यू आर क्रिएटिंग एन ऑब्जेक्ट. दिस इज ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएशन. Because you are passing one parameter, this constructor is called. Inside that you are calling this particular constructor, right? So that's what you are doing. Now to take this thing further, can we do something here also? Count plus plus is something that we are anyways doing in this constructor, right? And assigning the id is something that we are doing here also. So if you see till this part, line number 25 and 26, this functionality is already getting implemented in this constructor, right? What's happening in this constructor? Your id is getting assigned properly, your count is getting incremented in this particular constructor with one parameter. Can you, like, if you do it by some means, if you call the constructor with integer parameter, then you are done. Why? Because see, inside the constructor with integer parameter, first you are going to call the default constructor, यानी कि count plus plus कर दिया, ये कर दिया, ये कर दिया, all that you have done. Then you have assigned the id properly. So when you reach this stage, call the constructor with int parameter. What will you have achieved? Count will have count will get incremented. Also id will have correct value, है ना? These things will happen. Now all you need to do is take care of the name variable. ठीक है? So the question is, how can you call the parameterized constructor from another parameterized constructor? Same thing. But because you want to call the constructor which is accepting integer as a parameter, you will have to pass the ID. Is it clear? Because you are passing an ID, it's going to call the constructor with one integer parameter, right? Also, after this thing, count will get incremented. It will have the correct value. So you don't need these lines anymore. And let me demonstrate it for you. I am passing the ID 3, name Bhavya. What will we have? Count should be 1, ID should be 3, name should be Bhavya. Let's see if that is happening or not. And let's understand the flow of how it is happening. Okay. First, let me explain the flow and then we will see the output. Okay. Student S1 is equal to new student. You are passing two variables, that is two parameters, integer and string. Which constructor is it going to call? This constructor. Okay, it's going to call this constructor, right? What do you have now? Inside this constructor, you are calling another constructor, which is accepting integer as the parameter. So now you are here. Okay, what are you passing? जो ID आपको बाहर से मिली, you got ID 3. That is what you are passing here, right? So you are passing this ID here. अब क्या होगा? Inside this constructor again, you are making a call to the default constructor. So count will get incremented, ID will get equated to 0, name will get equal to default name. So at this point, what is the value of ID and name? ID is 0, name is default name. Okay, our same object is going through all these things. Okay, ID is 0, name is default name. Right, let me draw a picture for you guys as well. Let me take a snippet of this thing and show you how it is happening. एक second, huh? What's wrong? Okay. Okay, so these are our three constructors, right? थोड़ा सा space दे देता हूँ मैं. So what's happening is when you are creating an object like this, what are you? एक second, ना? What are you doing? S1 is equal to new. You are passing 3, Bhavya. Right? So by default, this constructor is getting called. What is happening inside that? A call is made to this particular constructor. So before you do anything, this constructor will be called. And what you are passing there? See, you are passing the ID there. That means you are passing this 3. Okay? So now what will happen is, for S1 you have these two variables, right? For S1 you have this ID and you have name. Okay, so let's see what is happening. So far nothing is there. Then you go to this one, and inside this also you are making a call to this, that is non-parameterized constructor. Count is getting incremented, so count, which was initially 0, is getting incremented. Okay, this dot ID is 0, so ID is 0, the first assignment, and name is default name. Name is default name. Okay, this is the picture so far. But inside the constructor, what you are also doing is assigning the ID properly to the variable that you have received, that is 3. So now the ID variable will get updated correctly. Now what you will do, this call is over, so you will come back here. This call is over. So what you are doing now is you are assigning the name properly. What you are assigning it as? The name that you have received from outside. What is that name? Bhavya. So instead of default name, what you will have now is, so finally, when you will do this print statements, what you will have is ID will get printed as 3, name will get printed as Bhavya, and count will get printed as 1. Is this clear to all of us? Let me allow you to chat again. So any member function nahi, constructor. Okay. Ankit, how I began this discussion was by saying, can you call a constructor within another constructor? I never use the word methods, and just don't get confused with methods. Okay, can you call constructor anytime as per your will? No. Okay. How can we use this inside default constructor to call the parameterized constructor? We can, but let's see if it makes any sense or not. let's try it once. Okay. In this case, we are going to get an error, right? First, let me comment this line and then we can try it. So yeah, we can do it. Okay, we can do it. If I uncomment this, you are going to get an error. Why? आप बोल रहे हो यहाँ पे आओगे तो इधर चले जाओ, ठीक है? उसमें बोल रहे हो यहाँ पे आओगे तो इधर चले जाओ. Loop, infinite, recursion, recursive constructor invocation, that is illegal. Okay, that is not allowed. So your question, can we call parameterized constructor from the default one? Yes, but do it on a need to do basis, right? We don't need to do it as of now, so I'm not simply not doing it. Can we do it? Yes, I showed you that we can do it, right? Also, how to call two parameter constructor. So Kanup, sorry, I think it's Anup. So we are already calling it when we are creating the object by passing two parameters, right? If you want to call it from maybe another constructor, आप this लिखो, bracket में दो parameters pass कर दो, not an issue. Show the code. I have to take a screenshot to make notes. Definitely, please go ahead. Right? Give a break. I will. Yeah, I will give a break now. Can we use this inside default constructor to call the yeah, I told you, right? We can. When will the count be 2? Ramanuj. So Ramanuj, the count will be 2 when we create two objects, right? We are only doing count plus plus once for each object. So that means count 2 करने के लिए आपको दो object बनाने पड़ेंगे, and that was the problem statement as well, right? Okay. So I'm giving you 5 minutes break, and 5 minutes means 5 minutes. 32 है तो ऐसा नहीं कि rhyme करने के लिए मतलब set करने के लिए 40 पे वापस आओगे. 32 is the time. Come back at 37. Okay, and I'm pausing the recording for 5 this thing.
Once explain English, sir.
Go ahead.
Before one person asked no, sir, same doubt, but you can explain in once in English, sir.
Okay. So
in the second, we have passed a single parameter int id. In that case, we have passed 3. No, sir. It will updated in that case, sir. 3 will be updated in that id, sir. Or 0, sir.
See, I have passed 3 from here, if that is what you are asking. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But now what will happen? Inside this constructor, what is the first line? It's a call to another constructor. So now we will come here. Okay.
ID will 0 and the name will be default, sir.
Yes.
At present.
Yes.
Now come to this dot ID.
ID will be set properly because you have passed 3 from below.
Oh, that ID will reflect here, sir. Okay.
Because you have passed it. No, why will it not? You have passed the ID that you have received from the main function to this constructor. So this particular ID is now having value 3.
Okay, sir. I understand. Thank you, sir.
If you do whatever and then you assign the ID correctly. So when you come here, what is the status? ID is assigned correctly. Count has been incremented. So you only need to take care of the name.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, let's get started now. Right. Okay. So this is what is called as constructor chaining. You are calling one constructor from another constructor. So what you are doing is you are creating a chain, right? That's why it is called as constructor chaining. And the main point is I just wanted to tell you that you can call one constructor from another constructor. All you need to do is use the keyword this. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this example, paste it in the document that we have, right? Constructor chaining. Okay, I think I already have one example from the previous batch. So this is what I am doing there also. So this is a cleaner version. You don't have comments there. So I think we don't need this after all, right? This is already there. Same example from the previous batch, right? Same thing is happening, right? count plus plus id is this default name, then you're calling this setting id is equal to this है ना. Let me anyways paste it, right? Let me anyways paste it. Okay, so this I will format it after the class, or let me do it right now, है ना. So I mean, let's keep the code that we have discussed in the class. Let's not take the code from the previous batch. That's not required. Calling one constructor from inside another. So let me just, I was editing this document yesterday only, but I think, yeah, this example, let's forget it. Let's use the one that we have taken in our class. Okay, so coming back to our discussion. So this is what constructor chaining is. Now, there is one keyword that I want to discuss with you that has to do with inheritance. So getting back to inheritance, right? Studying something new. There is a super keyword that I want to share with you. Okay, there's a super keyword. So Vibhuti asked this question that what if you have an a variable in the parent also and in the child also? You saw that if you have two variables with the same name in the parent and in the child, the one in the child class is going to take preference, right? So let me explain, like bring that back to you. Okay, class A int a is equal to 5. Class B extends A int a is equal to 25. Let's just for clarity, let's create a void print function. All it is doing is, right, it's, oh, let's not do this. Okay, let's just write it like this. Okay, this thing we don't need. Okay, what do we have? I have a parent class, right? I have a child class. Both have variable a. I have a function here which is saying print, and what is it printing? It's printing the variable a. Okay, so as you saw earlier, when I was printing a, it was this value of a was taking preference. Okay, so let me disable this function for now. Okay, b is equal to new b, sorry, right? And I just want to print this. What is it that I want to print? B dot a, है ना? So this value was getting printed. ठीक है? This is what we have. Now my question, or you can say the point that I want to show you here is that you are printing the value of a that you declared inside class B. What if you want to जानबूझ के, you want to access the a variable of parent class? Okay, you want to access the a variable of parent class. How can you do that? That's the question. Okay, so you can't really do anything from here, right? You cannot do anything from here. But if you come inside this, okay, so let's now make a function print. Okay, and now you also want to print the a that the parent has. So remember, there is this keyword which addresses the current object. Similarly, for the current object only, there is a super keyword. What does that do? It accesses the items from parent class. Okay, super keyword items मतलब methods, ठीक है? So if you want to print the a that has the value 5, what you will do is, ठीक है? And now if you do this again, 25 will be printed, right? But if you call print function, sorry, you have to call print function on B, right? Now what will happen? First you will get 25, then you will access the a variable of the parent. You will get 5 printed. Okay, so what will happen? Let's see. Let me allow you to chat again. Chat, yeah. Are you comfortable with this idea? Nothing is happening, only one new keyword has been introduced which can allow you to access parent के variables. ठीक है? Right? This is single only. It's not multi-level. Right? Only one class. What in the case of multi-level inheritance? So good question. So the limitation with super keyword is it can only go one level up. It can only go up to its parent. Okay. So if you want to use a variable that is, let's say, declared in the grandfather class, you cannot do it directly. Okay. So I will tell you how you can do it. Can I use super in main? Let's try it. Super for B, right? So something like this can we do? So let's see what the error is. Class name is expected here. Okay. So you can't do it for the object, right? So super is supposed to be used directly, and you can only do it inside the class like this. So from inside the child class you can use the super keyword. Okay, so two things: to access variables and methods of parent class, okay, and can be used inside child class. Okay, you don't need to use any object name and do super on it. You can directly say super.this, so that you are in this class, I want to go one level up and access the property there. जब आप super.a कर रहे हो, it's not even looking in the same class. वो directly ऊपर parent पे गया and then it's trying to search for the variable. Okay, this is clear to you guys, right? So let me just take this particular thing and store it here for our reference, right? Constructor chaining we have done. Let's print it here. Okay, this we are clear with. So main function I am emptying, A class I am retaining, B class I am just getting rid of, and then let's see what you were talking about, right? Let's talk about multi-level inheritance and the use of super keyword, right? So int A is equal to 35, right? So cc is equal to new c, है ना? C dot A. So what will happen? 35 will get. Let me just rename this variable to test, so that you know it will give a better sense. C dot A समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि ऑब्जेक्ट की बात कर रहे हैं, क्लास की बात कर रहे हैं, right? Test and test. Okay, let me also write test here. ठीक है? So if I just for your reference, if I print it again, it is going to tell me 35. Now you want to access this thing. How can you do it? Sorry. Just you will have to make a function where you can call this particular variable, right? Or yeah, that is what you will have to do. So void print, or you can say print parent. So I'm just printing the super one. Okay, so super dot this thing A, super dot A, sorry, test. ठीक है, this is something that you can do. So parent का क्या हो जाएगा? Or you can say B's test variable. ठीक है, is what? Okay, so this is something. Now I will have to call the function c dot print, है ना? So now what will happen? C का variable 35 print होगा. Then this line, this is just a line I'm printing. B's test variable is and C dot print parent. Print parent में क्या होगा? You will come here, right? What's happening here? You are printing the test value, but for the parent class. We are expecting 25 here. Let's see if we are correct or not. 35 and B's test variable is 25. ठीक है? Let's see, can we reach A somehow? Okay, because the constraint that I told you was using super, you can only jump one level. You can't do super dot super to jump two levels. That's not allowed. Okay, let's see if there is some way we can access that particular variable. Yes, there is. Okay, आप क्या करो, super करके jump one level, then call super from there, jump another level, something like that we will do. Okay, but before we go there, tell me if you are comfortable with this idea. है ना? है ना? What if it is in hierarchy 2? Can we use super? No, Dinesh, I think you asked this question earlier before I said that. You can't do that. Can we B dot test? B dot test. No. You can't do that RN because आपको वो करने के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? Test एक static variable है क्या? No. You can only use classes name to access a particular variable when that variable is static. ठीक है? Super keyword is used for constructor calling using inheritance. Yeah, Abdul, we will come to it. Can you jump two levels? No. Okay, I'm taking the permission away. Can we extend data from two classes? No, Rohit, that's multiple inheritance. That's not allowed in Java. What if test is of different data type in different classes? That's also not allowed. Umer. In different classes, yeah, it's allowed. In different classes, it is allowed. But which value will be accessed? वही वाली. Child class वाली. Rename the variable in class B and then run the code. तब तो मोहम्मद तब तो कोई दिक्कत है ही नहीं ना. If you rename the variable, तब तो there is no ambiguity. If you rename the variable in class B and access, let's say इसका नाम मैं कर दूं test2, तब तो इधर पे कॉल करो सीधा, कोई दिक्कत ही नहीं है. B dot test2 करोगे तब भी यही प्रिंट होगा. बात तो डिस्कशन ही तब का है जब वेरिएबल्स के नाम सेम हो, राइट? Why we use function before creating super keyword? Actually यार और कैसे प्रिंट करें ना, अपन को super, we can call super from inside the class. How can we call it? If I directly, let's say if I directly print something here, how will I call it from the main function? That's why I'm just creating a method for it. Super dot a ही तो कर रहे थे अभी. Okay, so now multi-level, let's take this. Okay, so what I will do is void print grandparent. Print grandparent. Okay, so what I want to do here is I'm not doing anything. I'm just going above and I'm going to call a function from class B. So all I'm doing is let's try to access this test variable here first. So void, let's call a fun function. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to print the parent's value. So super dot test. Okay, this is what it is doing. All I want to do is I want to reach this function somehow. I want to reach this function. Okay, so what you are going to do is you are just going to call the fun function. क्या होगा when you call this something like this, control C, control V, and C dot print grandparent. So what will happen now is C dot print grandparent, you will come here and you will call the fun function. Where is fun function? Fun function is declared here. So what will you do? System.out.println super.test. So basically you are in class B. Super means test of class A. So finally you will get the value of 5 printed. Let's see if it is working according to our thoughts or not. Okay, so it's not B's class, it's A's test variable. Okay, and this is what C's test variable, right? So okay, let's start it. 35, 25. Let's explain how this 5 comes. Okay, let me explain that. So this is the main thing, print grandparent. So you went to this function print grandparent. Okay, you're just following the instructions, not doing anything else. Fun, where is fun function? Okay, fun function is declared here. Can you call the fun function directly in the child class? Yes, because you've inherited it. You have every right to call this function. Okay, so now inside the fun function, what's happening? I told you, right? By writing the super keyword, you can jump one level. From B, if you jump one level, you are reaching the grandparent. Because C से B में आप आ गए fun function call करके, and B से A में आप super keyword use करके चले जाओ. So are you getting comfortable with the use of super keyword? Tell me, is it clear? Without function, we cannot print directly in constructor. Why? Constructor में you can, Dinesh, you can print in constructor. But I want to access it whenever I want. So for that I am creating a function. Constructor में तो it will only be contacted once, na? Copy the code in chat. Let me do it. Oh sorry, I lost the chats. Just a second. Where is this? कहाँ गए? हाँ. Copy the code in chat. Yes, copy the code in chat. Why are we not calling super.fun? Umair, very good question. Copy the code in chat. अरे यार तुम लोग तो I am taking the permission away. Can you paste output 2 in the document? हाँ यार. Yeah, I will do it. Super.fun लिख सकते हैं. बिल्कुल लिख सकते हैं. Right? So someone of you is asking, why did you not say super.fun? So that's what that's what I was going to come to. You have written it as fun. How Java reads it is why? Because fun function is not present in the this C class. So it's anyways, it looked for the fun function inside class C. It did not find it, so it went to the parent. Are you getting it? And this is clear, right? And ये तो मेरे को आपको super का use बताना था. This is why I did it like this. Okay, let me just copy this thing and okay, this is why I did it. Let me also paste the output, right? So this is why I did it. Baki, see, some of you would be thinking, bhai, agar inheritance is inheriting all the functions, so why can we not have a print function here only? Let's call it fun function. आपने fun function बनाया है ना B class में, A में बना दो. ऐसे कर दो, right? So you don't need this anymore. Okay, you need this one. Okay, this one we are not using anymore. So okay, so what we are having is, let me not remove that. इसको रखते हैं, ठीक है? Now everything's fine. So this is what I am saying, right? Print grandparent कर दिया आपने और आप fun call कर रहे हो. ये करने की जरूरत नहीं है आपको. What you can directly do is call fun from here. By fun is a function present in class A. C is extending B. That means C is also extending A. Multi-level है ना? B has extended A. इसका मतलब B has access to everything inside A. C is extending B. That means C is having access to everything inside both B and A. ठीक है? So now it's perfectly fine if you call this function directly. So no need to do all that hard work. Super करके. You can do it like this also. अब तुम लोग बोलोगे super का क्या करें, फिर ये क्यों बोला ये वो. I just wanted to explain to you what the super keyword does. Okay, that's why I took that example. and you saw that we could achieve our result using that also. But I'm just playing around with the code to achieve the same output. This is also something we can do. Okay, so if I run it now, ठीक है, क्या कर दिया मैंने? I directly contacted the fun function. Because there is only one fun function present in all these three classes, it's going to get called directly, है ना? इसकी जरूरत नहीं मेरे को. Why call grandparent, फिर ये करो वो करो? I have a fun function here. I'm just printing it, है ना? Things of initializing variables of same name in real programming. So very rarely we do it, right? Almost never, because the idea is if you have a variable in the parent class, why will you do rubbish things like this? What you will directly do is you will take that variable and you will assign it whatever value you want to assign it, right? This was just for explaining to you the use of super keyword, because Vibhuti asked that question that gave us the base for coming here, right? उसने बोला कि दोनों classes में same name का variable होगा तो क्या होगा? So this will happen, and you can access the parents variable by using super keyword. No, MH, we can't use super in the main function, right? How will you use the super function, this thing? If you use that, you will have to use it with a class, and that can only access the static members of the parent class. That is something complex. I'm not getting into that because even the simpler concepts are getting missed here. So I'm not getting into that. But for now, I have not explained how we can call the super function, use the super keyword in the main function. Okay, can we use b.test? b.test. हाँ किए है ना, ये देखो. Oh sorry, b.test. For that we will have to create an object, na Shubham, for b. I mean, what is b? That's my question. Yeah. So having said that, this is what I wanted to I just wanted to show you the super use of super keyword. Okay, and now I want to show you something else as well. So this I can just take it, but sorry, and paste it here. You know, just nothing, no new concept has been taught here. Just for fun, we did this, right? This particular code. Okay. So this is reference for current object. Super is a reference for immediate parent, not object, Vibhuti. There is no parent object. Super gives you the power to access the members, data members and methods that are present inside the parent class. Okay. So let me remove this. Let me remove this also. We don't need it anymore. Is there anything that's left? Order of constructor call, make a parameterized constructor. Super keyword to call the constructors of parent class. That is something I did not tell you. Anything else that's remaining? That's the only thing that's remaining. Okay, so there is something important, right? So I told you that a call is made to the parent constructor by default. Okay, what did I show you to support that? I'm going to take a basic example. Right. Let me also mention the details. Right. Default constructor in class B. ठीक है, default constructor in class B. Right. Okay. So all I just repeating the same thing. B1 is equal to new B whatever. What will it print? It will just print constructor in A, constructor in B. ठीक है. This is something that we have already studied about, right? And now the other thing that I want to show you is, I told you that when you create an object for child class, it directly calls the default constructor for your parent class. Okay. You can also make a call to the parent constructor of your choice. Okay, how can you do that? Now it's pretty straightforward, right? So let's have an integer a, whatever, and let's have another constructor. So control C, control V. This is going to accept one integer a, right? And it's going to do this dot a is equal to a, whatever. This is the parameterized constructor in a. Okay. Now my point is, automatically what's happening is this is happening. This is getting called. Can you call this constructor by choice? If you want to call this constructor, can you call this constructor from inside this? Yes, you can. Okay, you can call this particular constructor. Okay, so let me show you a few things. Okay, so the point is, because B1 is an object for class B, the point is B also has access to this variable, right? Because B is extending A, and A is now accessible for use of B's object. Okay, na? The point is, the point is, even if I have a constructor like this, I have a parameterized constructor, and what I have here is parameterized constructor inside B, right? Parameterized constructor inside B. Okay, so it's going to receive int A, and it's going to do this dot A is equal to A, whatever. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. So now if I send 5 here and I print I print the value of a variable, so b1 dot a. So let's see what we are going to get and how we are going to get that. See, I created an object like this. That means we went to this constructor. We are expecting this line anyways, parameterized constructor in B. But what we're also having is default constructor in A. So the first point that we note from here is creation of object of child class, creation of child class object leads to constructor call of parent class, leads to default constructor call. This is one observation. This I told you earlier also. Is this clear? S2 is equal to S1. If we make changes in S2, will it also reflect in S1? Yeah, it's old news. This is something that we discussed earlier also. It will. So old concepts are going to remain same only, right, Ankit? So what you just mentioned is going to be valid. This is clear to us. Now my question is, you already have a constructor that's doing the job of assignment, right? It's basically assigning the correct value of A. So is it really required that you do it here? No, right? You can make a call. Parameterized constructor of parent class. That's the point. You can make a call to parameterized constructor of parent class. The point is, how can you do it? Okay, and the answer is very simple. By default क्या करेगा ये default constructor को call करेगा. What you want to do is you want to call the parameterized constructor. That's it. This करके एक क्लास में इधर से उधर जा रहे थे कंस्ट्रक्टर में. Now you want to go to the upper level. You want to jump to the upper level. You are going to use the super keyword and going to pass the integer there. Why? Because this time what do you want to call? You want to call the constructor which is receiving integer parameter. है ना? That is the constructor you want to call. So आपने क्या कर दिया? यहाँ से, as you saw, default constructor was getting called automatically. Parameterized constructor was called. Obviously, it was supposed to be called, and this value we printed in the main function, right? But the point is, this was happening. Now you specifically want to go to the parameterized constructor of parent class. This is how you can do it. Super round brackets, pass a parameter. because you want to tell it no that you want to go to the parameterized constructor. That's why pass a parameter. If what I am saying is correct, what will happen now? Main class B will become new object. Constructor which is going to accept an integer is going to be called. So basically we are going to reach this line. Then we are going to go to the parent constructor which is accepting an integer. Do we have a constructor like that? Yes. So what will we have? We will have the correct assignment, and then we will have this line parameterized constructor in A. Okay. So what has happened? Assignment has happened and parameterized constructor in A. This is the print statement. This is done. Now we will have the second print statement, parameterized constructor in B. Okay. And then we will come back to this one. This line is done. What do we have now? System.out.println b1.a. That's going to give the same value, 5. So the change that we are going to see here is, instead of going to the default constructor, this time it will go to the parameterized constructor in the parent class, because that's how we made it happen, right? So if I run this code now, tell me, is this clear to you or not? No, Chirag, the point is we want to go to the parent class, na? Easily. Last 10 minutes, we are going fast. We need some time to make notes. Do not make notes as such. I'm anyways copy pasting this code in that document, right? You can refer from that also. Only don't note the code, okay, Anmol. So if you're making notes, very good. Only note the points that I'm making. Okay, do not try to copy the code. This and super make a difference. This points to the current object. Super jumps to the next level, right? If you are calling it inside a constructor, it's jumping to the constructor of next level or the upper level. If you are calling it inside a function, or you want to access some data members of the above class, that you can do, right? So it's always going to the upper class, the parent class, right? One level up. Can we use this instead of super? No, Chirag, I think I answered it already. Okay. So for those who for whom it is not clear, please tell me what's not clear, right? This keyword will work same in same class or parent class. Chirag, same class. Okay. This with round brackets. So what will happen is, it is going to go to another constructor but in the same class. Super with round brackets is going to go to the constructor in the parent class. Okay. Can I say super is calling a 0 parameter parent class? But how can we remember all this? Raza, you can remember all this by going through. So I will anyways share with you what we have studied, right? And I also am maintaining this particular document, right? So you're not supposed to cram everything. आपको ऐसा नहीं बोल रहा मैं कि rato, right? That's what we call it in Hindi. So if you're understanding it right now, that's it. Okay, then you can refer to the document that I will be sharing with you. Like I've already shared with you, I will just update it after the class. Okay, and all this code is going to be present there, so you can just refer from it each time. What you can also do is, because in class we do it in a customized manner, we go here and there depending on the ask of students. If you want to have a standardized resource, I told you beginner's book is also there. So you're not supposed to remember anything as such, right? I don't remember all these things, but it's just that when you are asked these things, or you can say when you study this for the second time, you understand everything. That's the intention. मतलब याद तो नहीं रहेगा ये सब इतना जल्दी, right? Because I am doing it for the, let's say, nth time, 5th time, 10th time. You are studying it for the first time, so definitely you are going to forget all this thing. But the only point is, if you understand it today, you will be able to grasp it when you read it tomorrow for the next time, right? This works inside one class only. Yeah, super can jump to parent class, not across classes, not anywhere. It can jump to the parent class. Okay. Default of parent is not called now. Yes, Kundan. Yes. Only one constructor is going to be called from the parent class. You use that power to call the parameterized constructor. So now it's done, right? So good question. अगर one note में explain कर सकते हैं ये process. I mean, there is no need, but yeah, I can do it. So what's happening is, this is happening by default. So you can also call parameterized constructor of parent class by using what? Super keyword, and inside the parenthesis passing the particular variable. Whichever variable you will pass here, that will determine which parameterized constructor you want to call. This time we pass an integer variable. That's how I got to know that we want to go to the parent class, and which constructor? A constructor which is accepting one integer parameter, right? That's how I got to know about it. Okay, so all these constructor calls will only happen when we are creating objects, right? Another thing that I want to tell you is, when you did not know about the super keyword, right? When you did not know about all these things, and let me just remove this particular thing, right? When this was the case, let me add it to the doc, and then I can remove it. Okay, this is for what? Calling, you can say, parameterized constructor from parent class, or you can say constructor of your choice, right? आपने parameterized call किया, you can also call the default constructor, right? So I'm just writing it in brackets. ठीक है ना? Okay, coming back to the point. So this is what you are doing at this point, right? You are calling the parameterized constructor. You can, when you are not doing anything, okay, when this is how your code looks, how Java reads it is, Java reads it like this. That's why each time when I'm coming to this particular constructor or this particular constructor, when I'm creating object for the child class, by default what's happening is it's going to the default constructor of the parent, right? Do you understand that? This is what Java is doing by default. ठीक है ना? By default. So let me explain to you the what will happen, based on how we are creating the object. So B1. Okay, so now let's see, sorry, B1. Let's see what the output comes. Okay, I'm passing an integer parameter, so I'm here, right? What is happening? Super basically a call will be made to the default constructor of class A, and then I will have parameterized constructor of class B. Okay, I'm not doing any assignment or anything. I don't want to do that. I just want to tell you the order of constructor calls. Okay, so in this case, what will happen? So, we have this line as well. What you need to look at is this: default constructor of A, parameterized constructor in B. Okay, when I made this, what happened was, we went to this one. So default was called for parent, and default only was called for the child also. So you can see this. Okay, so you can run a combination for this, right? If you pass it like this, what will happen now? So I'm just playing around. Okay, what will happen? You are passing a parameter, so parameterized constructor from parent, parameterized constructor from A, default constructor in B. Okay, so I'm just doing it randomly for fun. So you can also keep experimenting on this. This is the code, this is the template, है ना? Copy paste it in your computers and keep playing around with it, है ना? When you are passing a parameter, when you are not passing a parameter, when you are writing a super here, writing this is same as not doing anything, right? Because it will anyways go to the parent. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell you. Also another thing, when we are doing this constructor chaining, right, calling one constructor from another constructor, these lines, super, this, all these things that you are doing, you can only do it in the first line. Okay, you can only do it in the first line. What I mean to say is आप ऐसा नहीं कर सकते. Second line, see what it will tell you is call to super must be the first statement in the constructor body. Okay, so that's why this is an error. Similarly, if I do this, I mean, let me call this here, है ना, और इसको मैं second line में डालता हूँ. Sorry. Call to this must be the first statement in constructor body. So this is also an error I wanted to like let you know about. है ना? बाकी we are done with it, right? This we don't need anymore. Okay, right? So are we clear with everything that we have discussed so far? I can take some doubts now, right? Because I am also tired. Anything that you want to ask me anything. Rajat, yeah, go ahead. एक second ना.
सर जब हम लोगों ने दिस का यूज किया था तो हम लोगों ने पैरेंथेसिस में लिखा हुआ था, तो हमने जो हमारा वो था क्या नाम डिफॉल्ट कंस्ट्रक्टर कॉल किया था. तो लेकिन जब हम लोग कोई कंस्ट्रक्टर बनाते हैं तो अपने आप डिफॉल्ट को कॉल कर लेता है ना.
पेरेंट के डिफॉल्ट को करता है. यस.
तो हम लोगों ने फिर दिस वाले केस में हमने डिफॉल्ट पे क्यों करवाया था? तो ऑटोमेटिक कॉल हो जाता.
नहीं, पेरेंट के डिफॉल्ट को करता है ना. पेरेंट क्लास के अपन ने तो दिस क्यों किया था? सेम क्लास के दूसरे कंस्ट्रक्टर में जाने के लिए ना.
हाँ.
ये समझ रहे हो, यही तो डिफरेंस है.
हाँ
समझा.
हाँ.
ओके. तुम इलाहाबाद से हो क्या?
नहीं सर, कानपुर से.
अच्छा, नाइस. कानपुर में कहाँ से?
बर्रा.
अच्छा, चलो we can talk about it later. Okay, cool. अभी क्लियर है ना?
यस सर.
ठीक. Yeah, Pranshu, go ahead. Okay. Yeah, I spoke in Hindi only. So Jyoti, what he was asking was, why did you use the super keyword? Why did you use the this keyword? When we were talking about this, calling of constructor from within another constructor. So he's asking, why are you using that? The default constructor is anyways getting called, no? The point here is the default constructor is going to be called for the parent class. I was using the this with parenthesis to call default constructor of the same class only. So that was what I was explaining in Hindi. Continuously making change to classes in real-time use. Yeah, I mean, we generally don't do it. हम लोग एक बार में whatever we construct, we just stick to it. But yeah, can we do it? Definitely we can do it, right? Explain in Kannada. अरे यार उसके लिए time लगेगा, मेरे को सीखना पड़ेगा पहले. This and super can be used in first statement of the function body. Function body में तो अपन कर ही नहीं रहे ना rn call. This और super को, this logic that I explained for the order of this and super is only for constructor calls. हम लोग constructor को call तो anyways नहीं करते function के अंदर, right? We do anyways don't call constructor from within a function, है ना? Are there problems to practice OOP? So there are no problems as such, Tushar, but you can just go through the same code again. If you are comfortable with that, it's good to go. What you can do is you can also copy paste the code that I give to you guys after class. I mean, I enter in the document and you can copy to your IDs, play around with that. That is something that you can do, right? I understand that solving problems is how we get to know a concept, right? That's how we build confidence. But in this case, if you are understanding the code in class properly, that's enough. And after going to home, if you want to refer something, study the same topics from beginner's book or Geeks for Geeks and refer to our document. If you are clear with all that stuff, good to go. Like more than enough at this point. है ना? Is there a keyword for parent to child constructor? No. Can we use this and super in a parameterized constructor of child class? No, we can't use this and super together. Constructor chaining थोड़ा सा confusion हो रहा है. Dry run it when you are covering it in the end of class. Deepansh, we have already spent a lot of time on these concepts. I did do a dry run also when I took that example. Now 3 comma bhavya wala, that was a dry run only. But if you're still getting confused, you can take smaller example in chunks when you go back to your after the class. But I will anyways try to do it if we have time, which I don't think we will have, right? So please try to understand my constraint. Okay. This and super में कोई similarity नहीं है. You guys are asking for difference. So the point is, this is used to talk about the current object. But that's period. I mean, that's done. Super is used to jump to the parent class, access the variables there, access the functions there, call the functions there, right? When we are talking specifically about constructors, super with round brackets is used inside the constructor of child class to call the constructor of the parent class. Okay. This, when we are using this with parenthesis, it's going to call the constructor in the same class. Another constructor, but in the same class. So I think this is something that most of you are getting confused about. So when you go home, if I'm not able to cover it in today's class, because our time is almost about to get over and I have one more thing to cover. So do one thing. What is that one thing? These two parts, right? Where I called another constructor in the same class and I called another constructor from the parent class. Just refer these parts again. Okay, because that is where you guys are getting stuck. Most of you, not all of you, right? So that you will have to spend some time on yourself. Okay, so yeah, that is all that can be done. थोड़ा time आपको खुद को भी देना पड़ेगा, guys. That's something that you will also have to do. We had 3 lectures planned for OOP, 3 2-hour lectures, right? Today I got it extended by 1 hour to make it a 3-hour lecture in itself. We are going to have a 4th lecture again tomorrow, and I'm planning to keep it for 3 hours only so that we can cover the concepts properly. I'm not blaming anyone or saying anything. All I am saying is we have given 6 hours was supposed to be there. We have given 10 hours to this concept. It is so important that we can give 20 hours to this concept as well, but that's not practically possible, right? So after a point, after a limit, after explaining it for n number of times, there is a limit where I will have to stop as well, right? So I feel bad while saying it, but that's the truth, right? At some point I will have to drop that concept and move on, because we have other things in module 2 to cover as well. Linked list, binary search, stacks use, we are nowhere near it, right? If you will be stuck on OOP, we will never be able to reach that part. So that is also something that I need to keep in my mind while explaining something. I always prefer to move on once everyone is clear. But with this setting, there is certain practical constraint there. That's why I requested you to study inheritance and polymorphism in advance, right? So that the basic concepts you don't get a doubt in. Okay. Also, even after today's class, go back to your house, go back to your place. Just study about what we studied in today's class. Okay, we can arrange a separate. So today I just ate the doubt lecture, right? I kind of took over their time as well. So because we needed more time here, we can keep a separate doubt session for OOP. Okay, and that is only going to be helpful if you guys give input there. Okay, so I'm completely relating with you guys. When I studied OOP for the first time, I did not understand it at all. I'm trying my best so that it doesn't happen with you. But still, if there are certain gaps, for example, there is confusion in this and super, using these two keywords to make constructor calls, right? That is something where you are getting stuck. So your doubt instructors can take a specific example for this to clear it out. It's something very easy. Like on this side of the table, it's something very easy. So they can do it very clearly, very accurately. Okay. So these doubts, after a time, we will not be able to entertain it in the class, right? Because we have already explained it twice or thrice. So please make sure you use those classes also. And I'm going to request Lakshay to keep at least 2 doubt sessions for OOP after we are done with our discussion tomorrow. Even after that, at least keep 2 classes there, right? So having said that, this is what I wanted to cover. Let me just quickly revise what all we covered in today's class so far, right? So we talked about inheritance. We talked about it a lot, right? Inheritance. Why am I not able to write? Inheritance, right? We called about order of constructor calling. Right. We also talked about constructor chaining, or you can say calling one constructor from another. Then we talked about the super keyword. Right. Then we talked about how we can call a particular constructor of parent class. Right. So calling parent class constructor by saying constructor, default anyways gets called, right, automatically. Non-default, or you can say parameterized, constructor from not from anywhere in the child class. You can only call it from constructor of child class, right? We took a lot of ad hoc doubts as well that were coming in between. So this is something that we did, this is something we did, this is something we did, this is something we did. Anything else that we did? Constructor, order of constructor call, this thing. Yeah. Okay. I mean, in inheritance only it will be covered that I showed you that you can access the variable that you have made in parent class inside the object through the object of child class, right? So that is something I told you. Anyways, now let's get to the other pillar, polymorphism, right? So this is something that we need to understand, polymorphism. Okay, now let's start by taking the literal translation of this word, right? Poly means many, morph means forms, so many forms, right? So I will just quickly give you a context, right, and I will explain to you what it is called, and then we will come back to this statement again, right? So a lot of times you have this condition where you are supposed to make a function, right? It is doing the same job only, but what is different? You are giving different amount of input to it and getting a different output. This is very difficult to, if I just keep explaining. Let's understand it through an example. Okay, so what I want to say is, so void print sum. Okay, this is a very basic example, int a, int b. Okay, so you are going to have a print sum function which is accepting integer a and integer b. Now my point is, you can also have you can also have a condition where you are having 3 integers, and what you want to do is the same thing there. Also you want to print the sum only, right? So in those cases what you do is, you do not change the name of the function. Okay, you only change the argument list. Okay, so what I'm saying is, if you want to do the same thing with 3 integers, what you can also do is just call it void, not call it, actually this is, we are declaring the function here, and then we will have to define the body also. So my bad for saying that like it's not calling the function, we are defining it here. Int a, int b, int c. So if I just stick to this particular example, what we see here is both these functions are doing the similar kind of job, right? Both these functions are printing the sum, right? So basically, because the job that they are doing is the same, it makes sense to name these functions by the same thing, right? So because I'm printing the sum, it makes sense that I use the same name for both these functions. Okay, and how am I differentiating between these two functions? One function is accepting 2 integers as parameters, another function is accepting 3 integers as parameters. Okay, so this kind of a scenario is very common, and this is called as method overloading. Why am I not able to write today? Method overloading. Why? Now it's pretty obvious. So what's happening is print sum. You are using the same name because the job description is same, but it's actually doing slightly different thing. One is accepting 2 integers, another is accepting 3 integers. So the point here is, although both these functions are printing sum only, but you are overloading the same name because you want, in general, in your real life, what you will have to do is, what this is ensuring is, here you have to do a print sum, right? Here also you want to do a print sum only. But if overloading was not allowed, you will have to use some different name here. But that's not really required. Now, matlab, why use a different name when you are doing the exact same job? So overloading provides you with that flexibility. Okay, because at the end, our intention is to make our code as readable as possible and as maintainable as possible. Okay, so this kind of a scenario is called as overloading. Acha, how will the compiler differentiate ki idhar pe jaun ya idhar pe jaun? So that's also pretty straightforward, right? So what will happen is, when you will call these functions, आप ऐसे कुछ करोगे ना, 2,4. This is how you will do it. So how it will interpret it is, it's going to go to that particular implementation of print sum which is accepting 2 integers, right? And if you want to go to the other implementation, you will simply have to pass 3 integers. Let's say 2, 3, 5. So this time it will directly go to the other implementation of print sum. I'm going to stop here for a minute. Tell me if this is clear to you or not. है ना? ठीक है? So this is a very straightforward example. This is called as method overloading, right? So Rishabh has asked one question. I'm going to answer it next. Can we change data type? I have taken it. Let's see. Arey, very nice. Like we understand in methods. Some keyword is required, overload. Actually, so for the person asking this question, that's annotation. Okay, that's just for making the code look more systematic. Is that compulsory? No, but that's a good practice. Okay, so some people use that annotation, overloading, but that's not overload. That's not really required, right? So we are not going to touch it today in today's class because, as you can see, I don't want to confuse anyone, right? So anyways, so if we expand this further, Rishabh asked, can we also change the data types here? Yes, we can do that also. So basically, one way to differentiate is the number of parameters, right? आपने 2 integer भेजे कि 3 integer भेजे. Other way is to figure out whether you have sent an integer or not, right? So let me explain what I want to say by this thing, right? Method overloading it is. Let me just give it as a heading. ठीक, so let me just erase this stuff. Okay, you can also have a possibility where you do something like this: void print sum double a integer b. So this is to answer Rishabh's question. How will you differentiate between this one and this one? Because now what will happen is, when you call this particular implementation, you will pass a double first and an integer in the second place. So it will go to the implementation which is accepting double in the first place and integer in the second place, right? Another thing that you can do here is, See, very clearly, cleverly, what I'm doing here is, this might feel, oh sorry, this might feel a little useless at this point, but I'm just trying to explain the theory to you. Okay. So first, what did I do? I just changed the number of parameters. That was very easy for us to understand. Then next, Rishabh asked, can we achieve the same thing by changing the data types of parameters? Yes, we can. So now I'm passing a double here and an integer here, and we're able to achieve the same thing, right? Similarly, I'm now swapping the variables. So I'm just changing the order of variables, and that also will lead me to implement, or you can say to achieve, overloading. Okay, so just for an example, if I want to call the first implementation, what will I do? I will pass 2 integers. If I want to pass call the second implementation, I will pass 3 integers. If I want to call the third implementation, double an integer, right? I will pass something like this. If I want to call the fourth implementation, what will I do? Right, int double. So it will go to the function definition, which is having integer in the first place and double in the second place. So if I try to summarize this discussion formally, how we can, in how many ways can we achieve overloading? By changing number of parameters, by changing data type of parameters, by changing order of parameters. Okay, and this is something stupid, but when we are new, it comes to our mind. Don't think that this is different. This is not changing order of parameters. Okay, this is the same thing only. You're going to get an error, right? Because first place is also integer, second place is also integer. So you're not changing the order of variables here. So don't get confused in this, right? So let me just quickly code this thing for you. Okay. So I'm going to code all of this within a class, but let me understand one thing from you. I'm just going to allow you to chat again. Okay. So my point is, I'm going to make a class for this. Like, so let me just call it a class. Sorry, sum. Okay. Tell me, when I declare all my functions inside this particular class, do I really need to create an object for calling those functions? Because see, what I want to do is pretty straightforward. I just want to call these functions and print the sum of numbers that I am passing from outside. So there is no requirement of creating objects as such. Are you getting the same intuition? So what I am feeling is, why not just make these functions static? Because we don't really need to create an object for the same thing. It doesn't make sense. That's not really required, right? Because in all these functions, we are not using any object specific property. We are using 2 numbers, 3 numbers that we are passing from our main function. So we are not dependent on the creation of object for using this, right? I think Dream, what you want to ask is, can you achieve overloading by changing the return type of the method? No, that's an error, right? Exactly. So I did not use the word, but what we were doing with constructors back there was constructor overloading, right? Okay, I am repeating this, Shubham. What I'm saying is, Shubham, you have 4 different types of implementation. All these functions are just printing the sum. My point is, I will declare all these functions inside my class, right? But my question is, do we really need to create object to call those particular functions? Because I will not have anything else inside this class. So what I will have is void print sum, right? And maybe int a comma int a, right? And then I'm just going to have this void print sum int a, right? Void print sum int a double b void print sum double a int b. Right. So what I'm saying is I'm not declaring anything else in the class. I'm not having any object variable as such. Right. So what I wanted to tell you was from my main function, I'm going to call the print sum function. Right. So I don't really see the need of making objects for this particular class. So that's why I was just trying to give you this intuition that it's more logical if we declare all these functions as static, because we just want to print the sum, right? Some of the numbers that we will be passing from outside. So we don't really need to create objects for this purpose. So that's why I just wanted to create these functions as static. अगर आप static नहीं लिखते इन functions को, how would you have to do it? यहाँ पे पहले आपको एक sum को object बनाना पड़ता है, sum s1 is equal to new sum. उसके बाद आपको क्या करना पड़ता है, s1 dot print sum, s1 dot print sum, s1 dot print sum, s1 dot print sum. This is how you would have to do it all, right? But that's not really required here. We don't really need to do it. That's why I'm just declaring all these functions as static, and I wanted you guys to understand why I'm doing it. है ना? So double a into b, 3 and 4 is not same, Mohit. एक में मैं 3, 4.0 पास कर सकता हूँ. In the second one I can pass 4.0, 4, right? So it will understand कि मैं इसमें जाऊँ या इसमें जाऊँ. Okay, so let me make it clear for you guys, right? क्लास में करके उसी मेथड का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन क्लास के बाहर कर सकते हैं. No. Dream, when we are declaring the function, we have to define it also, right? तीनों condition नहीं ऋषभ. Even if you stop it here, that's also overloading, right? So let me just quickly do it. I'm doing a print statement just to tell you that inside function 1, right? And also print a plus b, right? Print a plus b. Let me not change line after this, right? Inside function 1, sum is like this, and then I will change the line. So control C, control V, control V, control V. Okay, inside function 2, sum is a plus b plus c. Inside function 3, sum is a plus b. Inside function 4, sum is a plus b, right? So now if I want to call all these functions, what will I do? Sum, my class name dot print sum. So I want to call the first, it's giving me options, right? Dekho how smart IntelliJ is. Now it's not giving. So it was, if you saw it earlier, it was giving me options that there are multiple implementations present for this particular function. Okay, and I'm going to show you something in real time. When I do 1, 2, see, it's highlighting. See, all the other functions are gray. It's highlighting this function because ये gray क्यों है? Method print sum is never used. Okay, and I'm going to show you in real time how I'm going to change between all these 4 functions. Okay, as soon as I add the third integer, grayed out, highlighted. Okay, instead of 2, if I write 2.0, highlighted, integer comma double. Instead of 2.0, if I use 1.4, see. So in real time, it's changing how its behavior is, right? So that is something that we have to give credit to IntelliJ for, because that is doing this highlight and dull thing, right? So that is what I wanted to tell you. Based on the arguments that we are passing, Java will understand, okay, double and integer is coming in this particular order. So let me go to the particular implementation. Okay, so let's call all these functions, right? Print sum. Okay, so 1, 2, 5, and in this one let me call it like this, and let me call like this. Okay, so what are we going to have now? See, in function 1, so a call was made to function 1. Why? Because sum is sorry, not sum is 3, because we passed 2 integers. So it went to this particular function. Then it went to this function because we passed 3 integers. Then it went to this particular function because we passed an integer first and then a double variable. And lastly, it went to this particular function because we passed a double and then we passed an integer. Are we crystal clear with this one? This is pretty straightforward. It's very easy as compared to other things that we were studying, right? Why use static? I'll explain it. Okay, we have time. I'm not going to tell anything new, and we have anyways given 3 hours today. So let's discuss why we are using static here. Okay, so why we are using static here is because I told you, right? In this particular scenario, we don't want to operate on any object. Okay, so there is no bookish answer. There is no hard and fast rule that you will have to use static here. I use static by my choice. I felt so because, see, all these functions, right? They are taking the integers from or numbers from outside from the main function, and then they are printing the sum. So my point was, this behavior is not really dependent on object. कि इस ऑब्जेक्ट के लिए सम डिफरेंट होगा, इस ऑब्जेक्ट के लिए डिफरेंट होगा. So and I'm not taking any property of object that I want to use here. This is purely something I'm getting input from the main function, and based on that input I'm performing my sum calculation. So there is no, I don't feel any need to involve object here. That's why I just declared the function as static, that I will directly call it on my class. So there is no bookish or hard and fast rule, but it's just this felt more appropriate in this particular case, right? Ravi Teja, the point is this A and B that you are seeing, I am anyways not inserting them. This is not what I am doing. Ab dekho, I am only calling 1.9, 4. This is, you see there is 1 second lag after which it is coming. IntelliJ is giving that to you so that you are more clear about it. That it is getting accepted in the A variable and 4 will be called in the B variable. Right? I declare method with static. It means no need to create object, not class. Class ke to andar likh rahe ho na aap. No need to create object for calling this method from the main method. है ना? Let me also see more doubts. Only print one function. Static because we are accessing without making objects. Yeah, we can access without making objects, right? We don't need to. I don't see the need of creating an object here. Your way of teaching is awesome. Thanks a lot for that. But why question mark after it? And you are asking, or you are not sure, or what? So no need to create object. Only print one function. We use static and count as well. So that was for a different reason, right? And it's working like function. It is function only, bhai. What if we call sum.printsum without A and B? So I told you only functioning thing here. If we I declare method with static, it means no need to create object for this. Yeah. Okay. This I have covered. And one more thing I wanted to tell you, because we only have 4 minutes, I'm not going to start anything new. So did you guys watch Ben 10 when you were kids? He had a watch called as Omnitrix. I hope this is what it was called, right? He had a watch, and we used to buy it from fairs across the city, right? It had a big dial. He used to open it, press it, and he had 10 aliens, right? He had 10 aliens from which he could select. 10 kar lo, theek hai? 10 aliens. So do you recall the fact that he had humongous, or he had one small alien, he had one maybe fire alien, 10 different kinds of aliens? Do you recall that it's not humongous or was very powerful, right? But it was not humongous or that saved the game every time. Based on requirement, that Ben guy, he used to select the alien, right? Based on his requirement. अगर कहीं छोटे से छेद में घुसना है, so he will not call humongous or at that time, right? if he wants to be invisible for some time, he will call some other alien. I mean, I don't remember Ben 10, ठीक है, मैं तो Doraemon देखता था बस. So based on that, you will be calling these particular aliens, right? Similarly, based on what job you are supposed to perform, whether you are supposed to add 2 integers, this alien is suited for that. If you are supposed to add 1 integer, 1 double, this alien is suited for that. Similarly, 1 double and 1 integer in this order, this particular function. 3 integers, this particular function. So this is also a parallel that you can draw between function overloading and your Ben 10 example, right? That's why I began with writing this, right? That it's polymorphs, multiple forms. So that Ben 10 guy, he had 10 options of aliens, right? So many forms. Same thing, aliens only. I mean, there is only one Ben 10. He can transform only to one alien at one time, but he's taking many different forms, right? First he's Ben 10, then he's maybe Chota Wal alien, then he's Humongous, or then he's someone else, right? So that's why same function name, but different function signature, different argument list, right? How is the argument list varying? Either by the number of variables, or by the data type of variables, or by the order in which you are writing these variables. Okay. So with this, I will thank you guys a lot for bearing with me for 3 hours, right? This was a long class today, and we will also have another long class tomorrow also, right? And that's it, है ना? Please क्या बोलते हैं? Go through. I will update these codes on the document. Go through that once before tomorrow's class. We will cover overriding tomorrow. We will cover encapsulation tomorrow, and we will cover abstraction tomorrow. If by chance we are not able to finish something, we will take care of it. Okay, so don't worry about it. Yeah. Yeah, tomorrow also 3 hours, Dinesh, because you know we क्या बोलते हैं, I don't want to restrict on the number of doubts or the concept clarity that we are having, right? So tomorrow also 3 hours. So this is the last 3-hour class that we are having, so don't worry. DSA classes will only be 2 hours only, but because this is important and OOP we are studying for the first time and we have a huge strength also, right? That's why I requested Lakshay to give 3 hours for this particular OOP only, right? So don't worry. 3 hours मेरे लिए बहुत heavy हो जाता है, मैं बोलते रहता हूँ blah 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 blah. चिंता मत करो, जितनी आपको दिक्कत है उतनी मुझे भी दिक्कत है. So we will only have 2 hours from now on, but OOP के लिए 3 hours लगेंगे. IntelliJ, I use IntelliJ for Java. It's I mean, I just love IntelliJ. So VS Code is definitely very good, but for Java, if you ask me, the first thing that comes to my mind is IntelliJ, because I am acquainted to that. For you, it's like if you start with VS Code also, no, you will start liking it because आपने तो IntelliJ use किया नहीं अभी. If you start with IntelliJ, you will definitely like it, है ना? But if you ask me, for a limited purpose, we are anyways we want to implement our concepts in Java, na? So IntelliJ is more than enough for that, है ना? Sure, Vibhuti, I'll do it. And also for the concepts taught so far, what I have done is in the document, I have tried to explain the definition also, and where I have not done it, I have given you that beginner's book wale links, right? So in short, you can go there also. Beginner's book is a very to the point resource, very good for beginners, as the name suggests, right? If you are using Eclipse, that's perfectly fine, Dhananjay, है ना? Chalo. Sir, can you explain definition? Yeah, I'll take it. Which ID? Okay. Cool then. So this is one type of polymorphism, overloading, right? We will study other concepts tomorrow. I'll take your leave now. Okay. Have some food, walk, and then sleep. Good night, guys. Bye.